welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services, and today we are going to talk about Spreadsheet Link from the BIM project suite. Before we get started though, I want to encourage you guys to answer questions or to ask questions, and I will do my best to answer them. We have a nice little questions panel that I encourage you all to take advantage of and utilize throughout the webinar. I will do my best to answer those questions as we go. And whatever I do not get to during the presentation, I will be sure to answer at the end. I will also add that we are recording this and we'll be posting it to our YouTube channel shortly after the webinar is complete. So my guess is that it'll be sometime in the next day or so, and everyone should get an email that had registered. So you'll be made aware when this has been posted. So with that said, let's just go ahead and get right to it. So with Spreadsheet Link is the focus today. So one of the things that is super fantastic about Revit, at least one of the things that I love about Revit, is that it is a great way to, it's great at retaining the information, at putting together the model, putting all the data in there, and compiling it for the project. What's not so good about it is, the reporting of, or the manipulating at massive amounts of data, right? So things get sluggish. There's parts of it that take a very long time to edit, or it's a very manual process. Yeah, you can throw a ton of stuff in there, but what if something needs to change, right? Or like an instance property of sorts, right? For a room or for a door or for a piece of equipment, right? And we've got hundreds of those, or thousands even, right? That takes a long time. And currently, out of the box Revit, for the most part, that's a one at a time change. And if you've got dozens of parameters and thousands of instances, it's going to take you a long time to do those updates. So today we're going to show you how our tool, Spreadsheet Link, can help you manipulate large amounts of data, whether it's right there in session in Revit or in a spreadsheet that can be edited inside of Microsoft Excel. So today we are going to show you where Spreadsheet Link is and get you familiar with the interface a little bit, and show you how we can do some of that data manipulation, what it does now, what the tool does for us, and then how we can go ahead and use this on future projects. So because I don't like doing PowerPoints, we're just going to go ahead and do the demo. So, let's go to Revit. Okay, so like I mentioned, Revit's really good at accepting all this data, right? It stores the model, stores all the information, gives you reports, really good at all that stuff. Anytime you need to start massaging it or inputting additional data, once the models are complete, there's some room there. So let's start off with something simple and something that I loved about Revit when I first learned about it, right? And that was the auto updating of the information, right? Or of the elements themselves. So for example, a room, right? We've got room name, number, those come in as kind of these stock formats, and if you need to change them, there's things that you got to do to change them and whatnot. But let's just say, this is my office, and we'll call it room 106. Those two pieces of information populate there, and then in addition to that, and this is the part that blew me away when I first learned about Revit, is it also then updates in the schedule, right? So here's room 106, here's office, and then now I've got this department parameter that needs some information here. So if I were to go ahead and type in, administration, for example, pop it in there, great. Go back to my floor plan, go to the properties of that space, department administration. It's there, excellent, right? Well, now I got this other room sitting here next to it. Same thing. It needs a number, it needs a name, it needs a department, might need some finishes, right? It might need some occupancy information. There's a whole lot of stuff going on that requires each individual element to be touched, so that in each individual property to be touched, right? So again, this is supposed to be room 107. It's also an office. Oops. And it is also part of administration. Now, if you've got it set up, or as you get going, you get some time savers with these little drop downs and stuff, which is fun. But let's take finishes, for example. So I've built myself a room finish schedule, and I've got all of these empty fields to populate full of data. Now, I can start typing it in. For example, let's say my floor finish is going to be, like CPT 1, right? And then this is going to be, we'll call it a rubber base finish or something like that, right? And now I want to apply that to all my offices. So, in Excel, you would grab those two things and do the little stretchy deal, or maybe a copy paste. How's this? You guys hear me now? Excellent. Sorry about that. I don't know why my headset stopped working. All right, so let's see. I'm going to take it back a step because you guys did. I don't know when my audio went out. So we'll just start over, I guess, in a way. When I first began using the tool. Okay, thank you. So Spreadsheet Link, it's in the BIM project suite. And we have a few different ways here to go ahead and review this data, right? We can do it by the category, we can do it by the type, or we can pull in the schedules that are actually being stored within the Revit model itself. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and start with the schedules, and I'm going to pull up my room finish schedule because that's what I was looking at a second ago. And once that gets pulled up here, you'll see that it gives me the schedule. It gives me all possible room data, and then it shows me the list of the parameters that are part of the schedule itself. So, but that's it. That's all it's doing right now, right? I don't have any of the good sorting currently, and I don't have any of the filters, if there were any applied. So I have to go ahead and set that up. Thankfully, I can set that up. I'm not stuck, viewing it as Revit sees it or as Spreadsheet Link sees it. So I can go ahead and match the sorting, match the filters if I need to, right? We can filter by design option or by the current view or what phase it was in, or any other parameter that's part of the room, right? Just like you would in a normal schedule. And we can set up multiple, levels of a filter to really get things going, or same thing with the schedule or the sorting. I can do multiple levels in the sorting, just like you can inside of Revit. So we can effectively match what's happening here. It'd be nice if it just picked it up automatically, but I can't do that through the API. So we gave you access to be able to set that up yourself. So now that I've done that, a little bit easier for me to navigate and figure out what rooms I'm manipulating. Now I can manipulate the data. And there's two different ways I can go about doing this. One is right here in the preview window. I can go ahead and start entering in some of this information. So I'm going to scroll down to where I've already done some and keep going. So for the wall finishes, I'm going to do, maybe this is just standard paint. We'll call it PT1. And, I can go ahead and continue to manually enter it in, or I can do a copy and a paste, great. Or I can select rows and stretch them across this, stretch them down like this. And if you do it a certain way, it'll start incrementally adding numbers to it. Or I believe it's if you hold down control, it'll hold on to what it is and not start renumbering automatically for you. So there's different ways to go ahead and start manipulating some of this information. And there you go. Now, let's say I don't want to spend all my time doing this. Maybe I've got someone else that's more familiar with the finishes in the project, but they're not very good at Revit. Or let's say they're not as comfortable in Revit, but they know Excel and they're more comfortable in Excel. Well, I can send them this file. So I can save this out as an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to go ahead and put it here. And we're just going to go off the finish schedule. And for the sake of not showing you the whole email distribution process, I'm just going to open it right up. And now I'm in Microsoft Excel. And I can go ahead and do whatever else I need to do, right? I can grab this data, I can copy it, we'll paste it down here. And we'll say the ceiling height is 10 feet, 0 inches, oops, 0 inches. And, do the whole deal, put my department comments in, additional finishes and materials. I can go ahead and clear that out because you don't need to know where I do my installs from. And, do the thing. Now I'm done. We finished editing the spreadsheet, and I can take more time and put this all together, but I'm not going to bore you with my fantastic Excel editing skills. But I'm going to stop. I've saved it. I'm going to close it. I want to update my Revit model with that information now. So at this point, I'm going to open that saved Excel file. It's going to clear out what I've done previously, and that's fine.
I'm going to open this up, and you can see now it picks up those changes everywhere we made them. And now I can go ahead and apply these changes to the Revit model from here. I can go ahead and hit apply on the active worksheet or all. It's doing the same thing either way at this point. So I'm going to apply those. I'm going to hit yes. It's going to go ahead, push all the data in. I'll get a little message telling me what's been changed and what hasn't been changed. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and hit close. And now that that's done, let's go take a look at my schedules and make sure that we're getting the data that I said we should be getting. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this all down. And now my schedule is already up to date. As you can see, it put the ceiling height in that I wanted. It put the finishes in where I put them. It deleted what I deleted, and all is well, right? So now I can get people helping with the model additions without even opening Revit, right? Or maybe they open Revit just enough to pull out a spreadsheet for themselves, and then they go back to where they're comfortable and go ahead and start doing data entry. And it doesn't have to be rooms, right? Like we can do anything. You know, maybe we need our door hardware IDs to put in so that somebody can go ahead and export a door schedule, put the hardware ID in. Or maybe there's something else. Maybe there's some occupancy stuff that needs to go down. And we need to worry about number of occupants in a space. We have to worry about egress and all that fun stuff, right? Let's get them to export a schedule or a spreadsheet and go ahead and do it on their own. So now there's a couple of different things we can do as far as taking it an extra step further, right? So I pulled a schedule, which is great. Maybe I just want to build my own thing. Maybe I've got and just put together my own set of stuff. So starting with rooms again, I can go ahead and start adding specifically the parameters that I want to add. Okay, like maybe I want to do something that has to do with my occupancy calculations and start setting up my code sheets and stuff. So just for familiarity, maybe I'll go ahead and grab my room information here, like room number, room name. Real quick, we'll jump over to my sorting tab and sort by number. Easier to see. And then what else do I need? So maybe I need my area per person parameter, right? Maybe what's the load factor? My load factor is the one that has the parameter in it. No, who am I kidding? There is a better way to do this, and I should have looked at my spreadsheet first. So there is my occupancy schedule that I'm going to look at real quick because I forgot to do that first. We'll get this out of the way. There we go. So I need my area and area occupancy category. Well, that's another good one I wanted to add. Okay, let's do that again. So back inside of Spreadsheet Link, I'm going to pull all this together. So while we're loading up some of this stuff, I'm going to answer one of the questions that came up. Did it actually modify the ceiling height? No, in this case, it did not modify the ceiling height because I was in a room schedule and I'm just modifying the generic ceiling height property, kind of like that ceiling finish parameter or the wall finish parameters, right? It's in a room, it's not the ceiling, not going to change anything. Had I actually grabbed the category itself and manipulated some of the dimensional values, yes, it would actually modify those. So in this case, it did not. So if I go back and grab number, name, do my sorting again, oh, missed it. Come back to parameters and let's grab the area and my area per person. And then the last one I'm going to grab here is occupancy because it's empty. And for just for the sake of having it, where did it go? Occupancy category, I believe is the right one. Yes, there we go. Okay, so now, and this is just, you know, stuff you like to see, right? So now I know that some are defined, some are not. That might help me with some decision making going on here. At any rate, one of the cool things about this is that it's a version of Excel, right? So in Excel, one of the great things and one of the things that makes Excel super powerful is the ability to put in formulas, right? I can put formulas in these cells and have it do some math for me, okay? So example, here, we'll start off with uber simple, 2 plus 2, right? 4. And then if I go ahead and pull that down, it just copies the formulas across, right? And you can see up here in the formula bar, it's still 2 plus 2, right? Well, okay, that's super basic, super simple, but you can do that. Now, let's do it somewhere where it's meaningful, right? Here, what's my occupancy value, right? So I know that that would equal area divided by area per person, okay? But why is it yelling at me? Should just be the number. Well, in this case, we're now dealing with units, and it's showing us that it's in square feet, right? So it doesn't do a very good job of computing that necessarily with all those unit symbols in the way. So we're going to turn them off. So back in the main window here, we have the ability to turn, well, not up here, down here, hide the unit symbols. So I check that box, hide unit symbol, and it's going to let me know. It's going to change a few things about my spreadsheet, and that's okay. Go ahead and do it. I come back here, and now I'm going to do it again. So now let's do equals this cell divided by this cell. Hit enter. Boom, it does the math. That's fantastic. And now I can take this, and following standard Excel function, I can go ahead and stretch it down. It's going to do some additional math for me. Tells me where I've got some issues, and that's because I have data missing, right? In these two cases, likely because I don't know what type of space it's supposed to be. So we haven't gotten that far yet. And in some cases, we're not going to get that far because that's a corridor. Don't need it. But instead of having to press and drag that down and then having to go back and do it again, on the next job and, effectively reinvent the wheel, let's take a step back and make an update here quick. So example, or that piece here is, I've got this calculation checkbox here. Where am I doing calculations? I'm doing them in the occupancy column. So if I check this box, watch what happens behind me. Well, I guess it didn't happen. Why not? Well, anyway, that's fine. So it does that. And then we can go ahead, and anytime I have that formula in here, it's just going to do the math. Now that should have updated automatically. So we're going to take a step back and do it again. So here we'll do, and I'm going to add to it this time too, because I don't like those decimal places, and because it's a number, it's going to go ahead and give me a whole bunch of extra stuff. So in this case, I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and type in an extra little formula. Now I can do that here. Could also go back and do it in Excel and preload it in and load it in that way. And that's kind of coming up next. But basically, I want to add a roundup value to this. Yeah, we know. Okay. If round up, and basically what I'm trying to do here is if I want it to round up, but if it can't round it up, I want to go ahead and replace it with nothing, right? So now I'm going to do, say, round up, then do this, divided by this, and then, oops, no, and if it's an error, do nothing, right? So basically, based off the good old Excel syntax, if there's an error when trying to round up because it doesn't have a number, do nothing, just leave it blank, okay? And remember, I had 23.3 before. Now I've got my 24. And now I can go ahead and apply this down the line. That should have done it for me. Maybe it's because well, I don't know why it's not doing it now. It did it 2 seconds ago. at any rate. So now I've got what I need to here, and I can go ahead and apply it across the board. What's even better now is I have a couple of things to, well, before I go that, I saw a question that popped up that I can answer right now. How about electrical schedules? Yes. So now, if it's a traditional Revit schedule, like you went ahead and grabbed, electrical devices from the categories list and you did it that way, great. Yep, you can do it. Now, you're probably not talking about it necessarily specifically that way. You're probably talking about a panel schedule. And at the moment, I don't have a good answer for that. So the data that would be inside of your devices and your equipment that would potentially show up in a panel schedule, you can manipulate through something like this. But it's not necessarily entirely the way you are asking. So I don't think, at least. And this applies to, before I go ahead and show up any more about some of the additional workflows that are available. This applies to just about, well, anything that you see here in this list, whether it's category, which effectively shows you every single instance of an element placed in the file. We have types. So if I want to modify a family type, like a wall type or a door type or a fixture type, I can go ahead and consolidate that list and just work with the family types themselves. Or again, I can hit the schedule and see the schedules that I've got in my browser, tweak them up a little bit, and then do what I need to at that point. So now there's a couple of extra things that populate that you can do with Spreadsheet Link itself. One of them is we have the ability to create sheets here, and then populate some information based off that. One question that I saw come in at one point was asking about views themselves. Can we create the views, or export the views from one project and import them into the next? No, not like that. What you can do is export your view names from one project and then take that list of view names and use it to kind of help you rename views in a different project, as long as the formatting is correct. And level 1 here needs to be named the same as level 1 here in the other project. That'll work. But otherwise, no. You can't just export a list of views and then turn around and import them into something else. It doesn't work that way. So, for example, but back to the sheets, the batching add sheets. I can go ahead and say create new sheets. I can also create parameters here too if I want to. In this case, I just want to go ahead and create a set of sheets. I can say give me 20. Pick the title block I want to use. And then if I want them to be physical sheets that show up in the browser that are going to have views on them, I'll hit create. If I'm doing this to create some placeholder sheets, for example, to include the civil or landscape or any other CAD-based series of sheets, if they're doing it in AutoCAD for whatever reason, I need those to show up in my sheet index still, so I can make unplaced sheets using this as well. In this case, I do want physical sheets, so I go ahead and hit create. It's going to go ahead and add the ones I want. And then I can come over here and grab the sheet number, sheet name, parameters that I need, and then build out everything else that I want. What do I want them numbered? What do I want them named? Just for the sake of building something out, I'm going to go ahead and just do that and just do a quick little stretch copy. And I'm just going to keep it simple and call it details, because we need lots and lots of details. And I'm going to stretch this down just so we have sheets to bring in. Great. Go ahead and hit apply. Active worksheet. Yes, please. And I've just updated 20 things. If I go ahead and close this out, I don't need to save that. now I've got all my new detail sheets in the list here. So great way to go about adding a bunch of stuff to my project, using it at the starting point to create a bunch of new sheets in conjunction with something like View Creator, where you're building out all your views similar to what your company standards need to be. So there's a couple of good things there that you can do, and you can build off little templates or settings files to go ahead and kind of repeat that stuff quickly. One of the good examples that I want to show you here is something that we've built out. We've got a couple other videos up on our YouTube channel that really go into more detail about how this process works. Is we have the ability to save settings out. Let me just take a step back and show you kind of how that looks. But I can go ahead and build this out, and I can save these settings. And I quickly saved an Excel file out, but maybe I've got, oh, here's that. Oh, I missed it again. But maybe I've got something very unique and complicated that I want to work with here. So I have the ability to do what's called an advanced save. So if it's really simple and I'm just compiling data to do a quick little basic export, we can save a simple setup. We can use it on every project. But if I really want to get into the weeds with this, I can do an advanced save. And in that advanced save, I have the ability to specify a template worksheet or another Excel file that has a series of other tabs created with a bunch of formulas effectively put on it. So I can do additional code calculations for egress and calculating all my unit types up and doing a whole bunch of other things that you would normally do in a spreadsheet, but you're finding yourself having to manually enter that Revit data into those spreadsheets so that you can do the calcs, and then manually pushing it back into Revit, or maybe using Schedule Excel to link that spreadsheet into a schedule just to print. So we have the ability to go ahead and specify a different template worksheet, Excel worksheet, that would effectively help you populate this, do some additional calculations, and then kind of round trip that data from Revit to Excel, do the math, back to Revit. So again, we've got a video on our channel that goes through this specifically. So instead of showing you how to set that up, I'm going to direct you to that video, and I'm just going to load it. So in this case, if I take a step back, I've got this room calculations workflow. And you can see already in the background that we have a series of bunch of tabs down here at the bottom for water closets, urinals, lavatory, and I'm going to go ahead and update that based off the project info that I've got now. You can see it's got all kinds of stuff going on here. So now I can go ahead and work with this. So here I've got that same formula going on here, and it's doing the math, it's doing the roundup. Got the formulas built in. And now these other tabs are referencing the rooms tab. So I can come here and look and see what it's doing. And here it's pulling the occupancies for each level based on information from the rooms tab, right? So it's doing that kind of direct lookup, if you will, of that information. And then it's doing it for every single one of these tabs. And then depending on what I want back in my Revit model, I have the ability to, I have an import option that allows me to import this data, this occupancy data that we had calced back on the rooms tab, and update my schedules and update the elements in the model. Okay, so right now I can go ahead and click apply, and it'll push that information in, which is great. And then my code sheets are up to date with the new info. So I guess I'll just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, active worksheet. Yes. And it's going to go through and update 96 rooms. There are 58 of them that did not get updated, and likely those are ones that are either not placed, right, and or redundant, and then or just didn't, or like a corridor or something, and had no business getting an occupancy applied to it. So I'm going to hit close, and now I'm going to close these out. And if I now go to my code plan where I've got this set up, you can see now that I've got all of my tags have updated with my occupancy values. And right, so I can even just go ahead and grab that room again, go to its properties, and tell you occupancy, here it is, it updated, and it's doing everything that we told it to do via the spreadsheet. Now, and that is that's always going to be there with this toolkit, right? Like, I know I've done this before, and I know a number of people have done it as well. We've used Dynamo to do that, right? And Dynamo's great. Dynamo's super powerful, allows you to do all kinds of good stuff with it. But then what happens next year when I get an update to Dynamo, and now I got nodes that have been deprecated, or one of the packages that I referenced isn't updating or hasn't been updated yet, so it no longer is supported in the current version. Now I got to figure out a new way to build that script. And I don't know Python, so I can't custom add the Python language to it to make it work. Right? So that's great, super cool, super powerful, but there's the editing factor to that we can't do. Spreadsheet Link is always going to be there, right? We're updating that app for you. You don't have to worry about it. It's just going to work, right? And then top it off, maybe the Spreadsheet Link interface for some of your users, maybe you don't want them to have that much exposure. You just want them to click a couple of buttons and get their updates, right? Run that script effectively, right? That's why we have Dynamo Player, right? We don't want them going into Dynamo to potentially manipulate something that they should be manipulating. Maybe there's this workflow here that I just showed you with the water closets and the occupancies. Maybe you just want them to click a couple of buttons and get the information back. That's what Spreadsheet Link Express is for. Now that I've got that template with those settings, we can use Spreadsheet Link Express to specify those settings and just hit go, right? They can you just tell them which settings file to grab. They'll go ahead and grab that settings file, hit apply, boom, it's done. Does all the math for you, puts in all the calcs for you. If it's supposed to save a spreadsheet somewhere, it'll save a spreadsheet somewhere, right? It does all the work for you, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So, and then people are using the big fancy or workflow that you put together inside of the Spreadsheet Link using the settings files. That was a lot to say, but that's all I've got. That's Spreadsheet Link for you. So that concludes my webinar. I want to thank you all for joining me today. We'll see you next week when I do another one. And everybody take care.